Hello everyone and welcome to this video on the basics of solving linear equations. This is an introductory video to some of the principles of solving linear equations that you'd see in basic algebra contexts or in some classes where you might be encountering this concept for the first time. Okay, so here I have two examples on the board. In this first example, I have x plus 3 equals 7, okay? This is an equation, and I'm going to talk to you about the four basic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. The operation that I see, I have to undo in order to solve the equation. So I undo, if I see addition, I undo it with the opposite operation, which is subtraction. If I see subtraction, I undo it with addition. If I see multiplication, I undo it with division. If I see division, I undo it with multiplication. So here I have x plus 3 equals 7. I want to get this x by itself on the left side of the equal sign. So I need to get rid of the 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 from each side. I subtract 3 on the left of the equal sign. I subtract 3 on the right. If I subtract it on the left, then the positive 3 and the minus 3 that I'm put there cancel out. They go to 0. And I get x is equal to 4. 7 minus 3 is 4. I know this is the correct solution because 4 plus 3 equals 7. There's nothing that's required about having my variable on the left side of my equation. I can have my variable on the right. So I just did that here to show you. Usually when we're learning, we do it on the left. So here, you can see I have an x minus 2 on the right. I want to undo that minus 2 and get the x by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2. I see subtraction, so I undo it with the opposite of subtraction. The opposite of subtracting 2 is adding 2. So I'm going to do that on both sides of the equal sign. I add 2 here on the right. I add 2 here on the left. 5 plus 2 is 7. 7 equals x. Again, I can check. If I go back to the original, 5 is equal to 7 minus 2, which is true. Let me show you a couple of other examples of one-step equations, and then we'll go through some other equations. If I have this equation, 3n, I don't need to use x all the time. Any letter will do, or even any symbol will do for a variable, as long as you agree on what it stands for. So 3n equals 12. This is multiplication, okay? This means 3 times n equals 12. If this is multiplication, and I want to undo multiplication by 3, then I'm going to do the opposite, which is division. Typically, we show that with a fraction line like this. So this is 3, and I'm going to divide both sides by 3 like this. Remember, I have to do it to both sides of my equal sign. So here, the 3's cancel because there's the same number on top as below. I get 1. So this is n is equal to, and then you do the division. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Like that. 3 times 4 is 12. Now, I'm going to show you something here. Let's say I gave you -3. Well, let's use a different number. How about -5n? -5n is equal to 15, let's say. Let's say I gave you this equation. Sometimes students are confused here. Is this multiplication or is this addition? Okay. Well, what are you trying to get rid of? You're trying to get rid of -5. That's obvious, right? But the -5 is multiplied by n. This is -5 times n. So in this case, to get rid of it, I'm trying to undo the multiplication, not the -5. So I'm undoing the multiplication here, and there's no symbol between -5 and n. I'll show you a little more about what I mean in a minute, but we're going to get rid of -5 times n by dividing, because we're doing the opposite of multiplying. I'm going to divide both sides by -5. Again, this is not subtracting, this is dividing by a negative number. So here, these cancel, and I get n. And remember, the 15 is positive, 5 is negative, so n is equal to -3. Okay? Now let me show you one thing. I'm going to leave this up, but suppose my problem looks like this. N minus 5 equals 15. Now this equation, this is not n times -5. Okay, this is not multiplication here. This is subtracting 5. Okay, so don't confuse this -5n with n minus 5. Okay, here I'm subtracting. This is a subtraction. I see subtraction, so I do the opposite, which is add. So I add 5 to both sides. And then we're going to get n is equal to, my 5's on the left cancel, 15 plus 5 is 20. So n is equal to 20. Okay? I hope that's a little bit clarifying. Let me give you one more. Suppose I said, let's use a different variable. Let's use p. P divided by 4 equals 8. P divided by 4 equals 8. Now, there's a couple of ways you can solve this depending on what level you're on. What I'm going to advocate for here is the fact that this is division. This is P divided by 4. I need to get the variable by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this side of the equation, the left side of the equal sign, by the number that I want to get rid of. This is division by 4, so I'm going to multiply by the 4 that I want to get rid of. If I multiply by 4 here, and notice I put it at the top, If you want, you can put a 1 below it. It's not necessary, but it might help you to balance what you're seeing. So I'm multiplying by 4 over here. If I multiply by 4 over here, then I have to multiply by 4 over here, and I'm going to use the parenthesis to help me indicate that. So here, these 4s cancel, leaving me with a 1. So I end up with P, that was my variable, is equal to 8 times 4, which is 32. Okay, now what I've done in these first few examples is show you one-step equations where you were looking at one operation and we were undoing one operation. Equations can get much more complicated than this. And they can have 2 steps, they can have 3 steps, you can have a whole bunch of operations that you're trying to get rid of. We're going to try some 2-step equations. You can try them with me as we go. So I'm going to clear my drawings at this time. And I'm going to stop my screen share because I'm going to switch my screen share to something else. Now, here's another problem that I'm going to put this up. I'm not going to worry about, I'm not going to worry about the instructions at this time, but I want to look at the screenshot that I was seeing. This is a different one. I'm going to do both of these in this video. I think I'll leave this here, but I'm going to use the first one first. I'm going to use screenshot number 7 here. I have 4 times s plus 2 equals 12. So here, I'm going to say that I'm going to write it on the Google Doc. We're going to go back up to here. My apologies. So we have, there we go. So now we have this. I'm going to rewrite it on the equation. So this is 4 times s plus 2 this is s, this is not a 5, okay? 4 times s plus 2 equals 12. Now, we can do this a couple of different ways, and you may have been taught to use the distributive property to solve this, and you certainly can. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to think of this as 4 times everything in the parentheses. So what I'm going to start with is I see this as multiplication by 4. I'd like to get rid of multiplication by 4. So what I'm going to do is divide this whole term, this whole expression on the left by the number that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to divide here by 4. If I divide here by 4 on the left, then I have to do the same thing on the right. Divide by 4. These 4s cancel. And what I end up with is s plus 2. And then I do this calculation on the right. This is s plus 2. So now, there we go. Now I have 12 divided by 4, which is 3. And this becomes an equation that like the one that we did earlier. Here's my line. So here's my +2. I see a +2. I want to get this S by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite of what I see. This is a +2 I'm adding, so I want to use the opposite operation with the number that I want to get rid of. So this drops. The numbers on the left drop out, and I have S is equal to 1. Okay, so what I did here was I divided both sides by 4, and then I subtracted 2. So you can, if you need to write the steps, you would say divide both sides by 4. And here you would say subtract 2 from both sides. Okay, that's one equation that we did. I'm going to show you one more. And I hope this will be a starting point for some of your own equation solving. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to clear my drawings, and I'm going to bring up the screen share for problem I'm going to do problem 7 here. Okay, so here I have t over 10 plus 10 equals 11. So let me show you this. Okay, I'm going to go back in to this, and we'll use our t's. So we have, I'm going to type this just to avoid having my t's look like pluses. T over 10 plus 10 equals 11. Now, this can get confusing. It's not any harder than the problems that we've been doing, but this can get a little bit confusing because you have a 10 underneath and you have a 10 on the outside. These are the same number, but they're not doing the same thing. When you have a two-step equation, it's easier to undo addition and subtraction first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on moving this 10 first. Then I'm going to concentrate on this expression. So if I want to move this 10, if I want to get rid of it, this is adding 10. This is addition. So if it's addition, the way I'm going to get rid of it is the opposite of adding 10, which is subtracting 10. So I subtract 10 here on the left side of the equal sign, and I have to do the same thing on the right, like so. 10 here. Now, this means this stays intact, this fraction. So what I have now is I have this. I have t over 10 the plus 10 and the minus 10 cancel. They go away. Now, I still have this side. 11 minus 10 is 1. Okay. Now, this means division. This fraction bar means division. T divided by 10 is equal to 1. The opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by this 10 to eliminate this 10. So I'm going to say 10. You can put it over 1 if your teacher likes you to do that. It's not completely necessary, but some students find that helpful. If you're multiplying fractions, they find that helpful to do. That's perfectly fine, or you can just write 10. This is 10 over 1 here. Okay. Now, I'm multiplying, so I'm going to use parentheses to indicate that. You can use the dot. You can also write the 10 either in front of this or over here. It doesn't matter as long as you write it. So here I have 1 times 10 over 1, okay? So you can see how that works out. Remember, if you cancel these 1s, you just get another 1 because 1 divided by 1 is 1. So you can cancel them, but that's not really necessary. You can say that this 10 cross cancels with this 10, and I get t over 1, which is just t, right? There's my t. And here I get t is equal to 1 times 10, which is 10. So my answer is 10. Now, it doesn't have to match, but there's a lot of 10s, but hopefully you understand why they're different. Okay. This 10 is my answer. If I put that 10 back in for t, I'll get a true statement. Okay. You can try that on your own. I hope that this video has been helpful to you. And if you have any suggestions or comments about my equation solving or any equations that you would like me to solve in a future video, drop me a comment or send me a message and I'll be happy to help you. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you very much.